And if you commit to it, you begin to understand the process of change, what helped you change, what got in the way of your changing, what did you do to yourself to get in the way of your changing, what kind of resources did you need to resort to in order to be able to change. All of this teaches you about how to do therapy, if you commit yourself to change and to working on it. So that what happens is that you're grounded in your own journey, you're grounded in your own goals. What does that do for you? So when this kid, okay, does what he does, which will trigger you, will trigger me, okay, I'm not caught up in it so that I then have to react to him. I don't have to kill him on the spot, okay? You know, I can watch him, I can think to myself, you're a real jerk, but probably is there something behind this, some insecurity of yours that you just need to then try to embarrass me, okay, or try to intimidate me, okay? So let me look, you know, beyond this show that you're putting on, and let me try to understand what's there, because I've done the same thing myself. I've also put on a front. Okay, I also try to cover up my own insecurities. Okay, and maybe this is what you're doing right now. So I'm your therapist right now. I'm not your buddy, I'm not your friend, okay, I'm not your relative. I don't have to deal with this in a personal way. Okay, I'm going to deal with this as a therapist. But I'm also being conscious, okay, of how hurtful this kid can be, and whatever's behind this, in this kid, it's got to be really bad, what's going on inside of him. So now I can empathize with him. Okay. That doesn't mean I don't set boundaries, it doesn't mean I don't take control of the situation, but it does mean that I see him as a human being, okay, with his own personal hang-ups.
So you were talking a little bit about having to strike that balance between stepping in your client's shoes and being able to sit with them and like be with them in their experience, and also being able to step out and gain perspective.
Right.
And I feel like in some ways I'm really good at both, but I think something I struggle with is that transition. So like if being in their shoes is red and gaining perspective is blue, like I go from red to blue really quickly. And I struggle with like purple, or like going slowly, and I'm curious, I guess I don't really know what my question is, but I'm wondering if you have anything that you have learned that has kind of helped you to tune that dial a little bit.
You know, it has to happen at the same time. And that's a training. It's unnatural. Okay? You know how to be intimate and at the same time stand outside of the intimate situation. Okay, and analyze it. And this is what I'm training these students to do. Okay, so that while you open yourself up to something and you're feeling it and you're working, going to that place with them, okay, you know, at the same time there's another part of your brain that is saying, all right, now what does this mean? And where do I need to take it? Okay. You know, so that, but you have to do that over and over and over again, so that while you're working with your clients, and I call you out and I say, what were you feeling? What was going on? So I get you thinking about, oh, all right, this is what this means. This is what it represents. And I want to be doing that all the time. You know, and I'm going to be, but if you get too much in your head, I'm going to call you out and say, you're not with them. You know, get connected to them. I know this is going on and that's going on. We both understand it. Okay, get connected with them, because look, there were tears in this woman's eyes, and I don't know that you noticed that. You know, really, there were tears. Yeah, I think she was hurting. Go back in there and talk with her about why the tears. Okay, but we also know that it's related to the issue that she brought up. Da, 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 da. So the training is to get you to be able to do both things at the same time. Okay, so that what do athletes do? You know, you've been training to do a certain play, a football, whether it's football or it's hockey or it's basketball, and you've done this thing 500 times, so that you do this thing automatically. But at the same time, you're training to watch the whole field, to see what else is going on, so that then you can change your action at a moment's notice. You know, in a split second. So you're thinking as well as acting, and it's coming naturally to you, and you have to do both. if you're going to be an athlete in a situation where you have to think as well as do. For therapists, that's also what we need to be able to do. And that's why I emphasize the training piece of it. This doesn't come naturally to people. Okay? Some people can do it naturally, and that's great, they have that gift. Okay? Most of us need some training and rehearsing on it. Okay? So that you train, so that you think clearly, you understand your pathology, you understand your techniques, you understand your model, okay, you understand what you need to look for in order to develop a hypothesis about what you're going to do, and so on and so on. You have to really work on that piece of it. At the same time, you're going to be a therapist, you got to get in there and see 500 families, 500 clients, and have somebody supervise you, so that you then practice really engaging with them and working with them, and also then come back out and look at the video and analyze it. Okay? So you get so used to being engaged, really engaged with people, but at the same time thinking all the time about what's going on and what you should do with yourself and where you should be headed. Okay? That's a true professional. That doesn't just happen. You don't learn that by reading a book. You don't learn that by just looking at a video. Okay? You have to actually see clients. You have to actually see yourself with clients. You have to also get in situations where you're observing, you're analyzing your video of the work you've been doing, and somebody to give you feedback, so that you develop the ability to do both and incorporate the personal with the professional, the head with the heart. You got people next to you who would love to use the mic.
Hi, at what point might it be appropriate to consider transferring the client to another therapist if there are some implicit biases from that client that's impeding the ability to develop a therapeutic relationship?
Well, you know, that's something that we all have to be ready to do. You know, if we're not able to do good therapy with them because of our own limitations, you know, because they are bringing something in that we can't deal with. Maybe they would deal with it, somebody else could deal with it. Okay, that's the time to transfer. There's a certain humility you have to have as a therapist. Okay, one is that you can't transform people because you want to transform them. You have to work with them, and sometimes you'll succeed. Most of the time you'll partially succeed and never fully succeed. Okay? So we have to learn to live with what we're able to do and what we're not able to do with. And if this doesn't work for us, then it's not going to work for our client, and that's the time to make the transfer without blaming the client, without making the client feel like, you know, you're impossible. You know, maybe, you know, I remember when I was in Menninger's, the whole psychoanalytic thing, people who came from my neighborhood, okay, where they would see them and they would say, oh, these people, they're not good candidates for psychoanalysis, as if there was something wrong with them, you know. And my response was, maybe your psychoanalysis is so limited that it's not really able to deal and address with the issues that they are really living with.
So I'll deepen up a little bit. I'll use my own personal experience. I had a client who had issues with me being a black female and being his therapist.
Right.
And he brought a lot of his biases about black females, blacks in general,
Right.
in a helping profession. And I mean, I felt okay with working with him, but there were several occasions where some of his comments were very condescending and undermining my ability to be his therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my question was just, I guess, understanding at what point would it be beneficial to, you know, agree to disagree, that maybe this is not just a good fit, not for me saying that I can't work with him, but just for, I guess, that person, like me expecting to stretch him, or for him feeling uncomfortable with being with a black therapist.
Well, you know, but it could be either way. You know, I mean, they can say, you know, I'm just not comfortable with you, and that makes it easy. You know, and let me help you find another therapist. But if they're quite willing to be with us and make our lives miserable, you know, but we're able to be effective with them and change them, then we can live with that, then fine. I'm being effective, I'm being helpful, I can address their language, I can address their attitudes and all that, and we're able to work through it, okay, then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. If it's not working, then you stop. You don't force something that is not working. And that's where I go back to the humility. We really need to be prepared to know our limitations and the limitations of what we do. We're human.
So, I just wanted to know, you all have a 2-hour lunch. If you want to have some more questions, you can have that. You have plenty of time, I think, to get back here. So, we can take another question and we can take more. So what's the group's will? More questions? Yeah. Yeah, so is you all okay with that? Okay, great. So let's go. Questions?
Hello. Okay, so you mentioned being a minority therapist, minority being a broad term, and also about the personal versus, well, I guess integrating the personal and the professional.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, and beyond the therapy room, but being a minority therapist, just in the profession, like at the clinical sites, in these training programs? Because in my experience, sometimes the things we experience in society, like those oppressions and privileges, replicate within these programs or within our clinical sites. So can you talk a little bit about what your experiences with those have been and how have you been able to navigate that?
Well, sometimes I've navigated it well, other times I haven't. You know, I remember when I went back to Menninger's, like 20 years after I had left there, and they asked me to do a workshop, and some of the people working there said, "Oh, you're the guy who caused all that trouble back then?" I said, "Oh, you still remembering? They're still talking about the trouble that I caused?" Yes, I did cause trouble. You know, sometimes it was not well thought through. You know, I was a little bit impulsive. I'm much better behaved right now, I think. Look, fortunately, you know, we're in an environment today where these things can be addressed. And that's when it becomes political, okay? Because sometimes we can have a one-to-one conversation with somebody who has some power in the organization. Sometimes we need to bring other people together with us in order to meet with the person who's in power. You know, sometimes we need to resort to some legal help to come in, and we have an issue, and we bring that up, and then they have to pay attention to us because we've made a complaint. There are many ways of dealing with these things, but that's part of the game, and it's and that is what is, I think, working for us in today's environment, where nobody's going to be shocked that we have some issue that has to do with our place, our culture, our race, our ethnicity, or whatever it is, and how it's being dealt with in that particular environment. Okay, it's a proper thing to be doing. You can't work and take personal risks with clients and open yourself up, okay, and feel yourself to be in danger. Okay, that somebody's going to, they're going to make a complaint, and you're not going to be backed up. Okay, somebody who's racist, and they're going to say that we, you know, did this, that, or the other. We can't take the risk we need to, personal risk we need to take as therapists with clients, okay, if we don't feel safe in the environment in which we work. And if we don't feel safe, that needs to be addressed.
Kind of going along with your question initially, just clients that have like implicit biases or prejudices. I'm wondering, you talked about accessing self and being able to find like experiences where we can resonate with where our clients are coming from. And I've got a couple of clients who are pretty explicitly like sexist, or clients who've had negative experiences and have developed, you know, racial biases, even like personalized racial biases. I had a biracial client who we talked extensively about like her experiences with Black men and her Black father, and it was a critical component of her progress, and like, and something she wanted to explore. But in terms of connecting, like, say for example, with this client of mine, he was pretty misogynistic in a lot of ways, and like the things he would say that could have been insulting. Being able to find a point of access for me to resonate with him, there was a part of me that wanted to put the like social justice piece on pause so that I could relate to him, because I was feeling triggered, you know, by some of his comments. I don't know what your thoughts are about order of operations in terms of maybe addressing that at a later point after the relationship, if you like think go to issues where we can relate, or if you think if I can't relate to him initially, if you think it might be something I should work on my person of the therapist issues before working with that client.
500 questions.
Yeah.
You know, if we have a therapeutic relationship, that's the relationship that we have. Okay? And when I have clients, I don't ask what party they belong to. I don't ask what their views are about this, that, or the other in terms of social justice or anything else. Okay, that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to help them with whatever is broken, try to fix it. Okay. Now, if we can address that, and the other stuff is kept out, and I don't have to deal with it, then that's it. I don't have to deal with it, and I'm not there to convert them, you know, to change parties or to change their views of race or anything else. That's not my job. Okay, my job is to help them with what's broken. So if we can stay within the boundaries of what where they're hurting, and I can help them with that, and I've done this with people, okay, no problem. If, however, then they need to bring in this other stuff, okay, and they need to impose it and bring it into our relationship, okay, that then, and it gets in my way of dealing with them, then I have to address it with them, you know, and I can address it with them by saying, you know, look, you know, this is a problem for me, you know, you keep bringing this up, and if you keep bringing this up, I can't deal with you, you know, so if you just keep this out of here, and because this is where I'm coming from, we're okay, you know, and if they can do that, cool, you know, I don't need to convert them, I don't need to give them a lecture. Okay, because I may be wrong, they may be right, I don't know, okay, you know, but if they won't, and if they have a need to impose this on us, okay, and I can't get them to stop it or use it as a means to get into something else that they're dealing with, so that then that just, you know, goes away because I was really a cover for something else, you know, if I can't get it out of the way, then it's really, we can't work together. You know, and I will just say, and I'll take the responsibility. I won't put it on them. I'll say, I find this is a problem for me. Okay, and you can't stop talking this way, you know, and I can't keep hearing that. So if you want me to work with you, you got to stop. If you can't stop, we need to stop and get to somebody else that you can work with. Okay, but I don't then say to them, you know, you're this, you're that, or the other. I don't like your attitudes. I'm not there to judge them. I'm not there to convict them. Okay, I'm there to be their therapist, and if I can't be their therapist, I say I can't be a therapist because of this. And if we can't make that adjustment, then we can't work together because then I'm useless to you. And let's try to find a therapist that you can work with. Or if I can't think of anybody who would ever want to work with you because of the way you know, I'm saying I can't make a. And I've said this to people. You know, I really can't refer you to anybody because I don't know anyone that I know, you know, who would take what I can't take. You know? So you're going to have to look for your own therapist. You know, and I try to do it I try not to be attacking and judgmental to the person. I just make it my own thing. You know? And I want to limit anything in me and control whatever in me, you know, has a need to get back at that person. Okay, I don't want to be reactive to the person. I don't want to hurt the person. That's not what I'm here for. And that's why it's important that I have to have a life of my own. Okay, because if my life has to do with my therapy, okay, then I'm going to take all these things personally, okay, and it's going to make this job impossible to deal with. If I have a life of my own, I'm dealing with my own issues, I recognize my own stuff, okay, there is a space there. That is a safe space for me, a certain distance from my client. That allows me to deal with all kinds of people, and people that I would never want to go out with, never want to sit down and have a drink with, okay? But I can be of help to them. If I can be of help to you, and we can stay within those boundaries, cool. Make sense? Okay. Hello.
First of all, it's really a huge honor for you to be here, so thank you for being here for us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. But the whole time that you're talking about the, personal therapist, I was thinking attachment theory. It's attachment. It's
right.
Everything about attachment, being sensitive to the self as a therapist and being sensitive to our clients. That whole attachment. I just love attachment. But I was, and you've never, the whole time you haven't used the word attachment. So I was wondering if there is a whole difference between attachment theory and what personal therapist training is like. Because to me, I'm just like, this is completely attachment theory. To me, this is a lot of attachment work in yourself. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, if there is a huge difference between
what I make clear is that what I'm talking about here is not meant to promote any kind of model of therapy, that all therapy is done through a relationship. Even the models of therapy that say the relationship is not important, it's just what we do cognitively, okay? It's still a relationship, and if you're not conscious of the relationship and work sensitively with the relationship, you're going to fail no matter how well educated you are, how well trained you are. Okay, that things overlap. I've had the response that you just gave me, I've had it for a number of people who come from the attachment world, and I say, wonderful, and so there's with some people, because of where they come from in terms of their models, it makes a very easy marriage, the stuff that I'm talking about. With others, it's a more difficult marriage, okay? But, I know in Ackerman, last year, we did a presentation where one person presented his own model having to do with attachment and emotionally focused therapy, and he presented his thing, and then I said, okay, I'll present mine, and then we talked about how one helped the other, and my hope is that people will be able to adapt it to whatever model of therapy they work with, given that all therapy is based and done through a relationship. By the way, I meant to suggest this. She doesn't know I'm doing this. I don't know if any of you know who Marlene Watson is, but she's a person who got me started doing this work here at Drexel. She wrote a book, Facing the Black Shadow. Okay. And what she does in the book is she reflects not only on what's going on with society in terms of race, but she speaks to what's going on with the person who's being affected by what's going on in society and by our history of slavery, etc. Okay, and it takes a lot of courage to do that. Okay? But she does it in a very sensitive way, and a way that provides a lot of insight. And you don't have to be black to learn from this. Okay? But it's a way of self-reflecting about how what goes on in society we incorporate, and it affects how we think about ourselves, affects how we relate to people, and how that affects the therapy that we do. Okay? And she does a marvelous job of addressing that and really putting light on it. And so if any of you are interested in the book, it's again, it's Facing the Black Shadow, and her name is Marlene Watson. Okay, all right, good.